Hi, Teri here from Stamping Magic. Welcome back to my channel. Today's project is another fancy fold card. I've used the Plentiful Plants stamp set together with the Perfect Plants dies which coordinate. I've also used the coordinating designer series paper which is called Bloom Where You're Planted. And I've created a double easel card. So here is the first easel, and then there's a tiny little easel in front of it. So this is what it looks like when the card's displayed. And here is the profile. Now inside I've added a panel where you can write your message, although you could add one to the back if you prefer. The card will fold flat and fit in a normal envelope. So let's get started. These are all the measurements you need for all the elements required to create this project. So if you're interested in reproducing it, take a screenshot so you can refer to it later. Here is the Plentiful Plants stamp set. Now today I'm using 2 of the pots and 3 of the foliage elements. My sentiment actually comes from the Free as a Bird stamp set. I wanted something small and something fairly generic that I could use for many occasions. I'm starting with the stamping. I'm going to use polished pink ink for the sentiment, Just Jade, Evening Evergreen and Garden Green ink for the 3 sets of foliage, and then Bumblebee for the plant pots. I'm going to start by stamping the plant pots, and I thought I'd show you a little trick that you may find useful. Now when our ink pads are new, they can be very juicy, sometimes over juicy. So when you stamp, you don't get a perfect impression. Now this first one was actually not too bad, but this second one, you can see it's a little bit blotchy. Now the way to overcome this is to remove some of the ink from the surface of the pad. And the best way to do this is to press it deeper into the pad itself. I use a bone folder for this, and I keep it specifically for this task. And all you want to do is very gently press the bone folder over the surface of the pad, and this will push that ink deeper into it. So when you stamp, you will get a perfect image. Now I need just 1 of the pots that I've just stamped, but I need to stamp 2 of the other flower pots. And because I've pressed that ink down into the pad, you can see the lovely shading on these stamps. The sentiment will be in polished pink ink, and then the 3 foliage elements. This first one is in Garden Green, this next one is Evening Evergreen, and the final one is in Just Jade. The sentiment will be die cut using one of the stitched So Sweetly dies, and it's the smallest one in this group. Now hopefully I haven't stamped the foliage too close to that sentiment. I may have to stamp the sentiment again. I'll see. All the other images will be die cut using some of the Perfect Plants dies. And here are all the images die cut. Now I've added dimensionals to the back of the sentiment. This polished pink mat was also die cut using one of the stitched So Sweetly dies, and it's the largest one. And then I've also die cut these two hanging baskets from Grey Granite card, and I used another of the Perfect Plants dies for this. I want to add one of the foliage elements into this smaller pot, so I'm just adding a little glue at the bottom of the foliage, and then I'll place the pot on top of it. I'll give this a few seconds to dry, and then I'll add dimensionals onto the reverse. I've added a little colour onto one of the hanging baskets just to show you the difference that this can make. The die cuts on their own are quite flat, so just adding a little colour really adds interest and dimension. Now to do this, I'm using the dark smoky slate Stampin' Blends alcohol marker, and I'm just going to add some dots where the knots would be, and then some little stripes just to make it look as if it's got some texture. Now I did try this with the Grey Granite marker, but the colour just disappeared into the cardstock, which is why I'm using the smoky slate. The Stampin' Right markers would also work for this. I can now make up both the hanging baskets. I'm going to start by threading the foliage through one of the baskets, and then I can add glue to the reverse of the foliage and the reverse of the hanging basket and position it over the top of one of the flower pots. Now for the second one, I'm going to add glue just to the top edge of the flower pot and place the foliage on top. Then again I'll add glue to the reverse of the hanging basket and just place it on top of the flower pot. I have two pieces of polished pink card to make up the easels. Now this first one is half a standard sheet of card scored in the middle as you would a normal card base. Now I'm going to add an additional score. Because I use A4 card as my standard, I've added the metric plate onto my Simply scoreboard, and I'm going to score it at the halfway point on this first panel, and it's marked on the metric plate at 7.4 centimeters. If you're in the US or Canada and use 8.5 inch by 11 inch card, you want to score this piece at the halfway point, which is 5.5 inches, and at 2 3/4 inches. So that's 2 3/4 inches and 5.5 inches. For A4 users, this smaller piece needs to be scored at 3 centimeters and 6 centimeters. So 6 centimeters is the halfway point, and then 3 centimeters is the halfway point within that first half. Now, if you use 8.5 inch by 11 inch, your measurements for scoring are a little awkward. The halfway point is at 2 3/8 of an inch. The halfway point of that first section is 1 3/16 of an inch, and we haven't got increments of a 1/16 of an inch on the Simply scoreboard. So what you can do is just fold that first section in half and burnish it with your bone folder. And because this piece is so tiny, it will fold fine. Or alternatively, you could make that 1 3/16 of an inch score on your trimmer. You want to fold the card base as you normally would, and then fold that front section, that extra score line, into a mountain fold. So I have my 2 card bases for my easels, and then I have extra panels that will be added to them to complete the cards. So these will go on the front. Then I have 2 grey granite mats and 2 pieces of the Bloom Where You're Planted designer series paper. Then I have 2 smaller grey granite mats and 2 smaller pieces of the same designer series paper. Then I have another grey granite mat and some basic white card that's going to go on top for my message panel. I have my die cut panel in polished pink, which I've added dimensionals to the back, and an additional piece of the designer series paper which I'm going to add to it. Now to finish off the card, I want to add just a little sparkle. So I thought I'd add some jewels where the hanging baskets are hung from, and also either side of the sentiment. Now on my original card I used jewels from the latest In Colour Jewels pack, but sadly I've only got a few left. Now these are actually pale papaya, but when you put them next to the yellow they look yellow. So instead I'm going to use a retired product, and these are the Share What You Love Artisan Pearls. And there's a yellow in there, although I couldn't tell you which yellow it is, but you know, it's fine. I'm trying to use up my retired products whenever I can, so this is a perfect opportunity. So I've added one to the top of each hanging basket, and then I'm going to add a pearl either side of that sentiment. And that's my card complete. Really is quite a simple fancy fold card to create. And there's the profile again, and how it will look when it's displayed. Now here's another look at my original card. The colours I used for this one are Just Jade for the card bases and Cinnamon Cider for the hanging baskets. All the other colours, the plant pots and the foliage, were the same as the card I've just created. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. Bye for now.